All right, NEET aspirants, let's jump right in. We're doing a super fast, high-yield revision of one of the most important ecology chapters, Organisms and Populations. We're going to hit all the core concepts you absolutely cannot afford to miss for your exam. Ready? Let's do this.
So you might be asking, why focus on this chapter? Well, it's simple. This chapter is an absolute goldmine for NEET questions. And here's the secret. It's not really about memorizing a bunch of random facts. No, it's about understanding the system, how life actually interacts. If you can master this framework, you'll literally unlock the logic behind tons of potential questions. This isn't just theory. This stuff translates directly into marks on your exam.
All right, let's kick things off with the big picture, ecology. We're going to start with the fundamental levels of life. Seriously, if you get this hierarchy down, you've got the key to unlocking this entire chapter. It's that important.
So what is ecology really? At its core, it's just the science of interactions. That's it. It's about how living things deal with each other and how they deal with their physical or abiotic environment. That's a key word right there. And you should really hang on to that word, interaction. It's basically the golden thread that's going to connect everything we cover today.
Okay, look at this. This diagram is basically the blueprint for all of life. It's so logical. Just follow the path with me. You start with a single organism. A group of them makes a population. A bunch of different populations living together, that's a community. Now add in the non-living, the abiotic factors, and bam, you've got an ecosystem. Ecosystems then group up into biomes, and all of that together makes up our entire biosphere. You've got to lock this sequence into your brain. It's your mental map for this whole topic.
All right, now that we have the big map, let's zoom all the way into the very first level, survival. We're talking about the individual. How does one single organism manage to adapt and, just survive when faced with its non-living environment?
Okay, so any organism's survival really comes down to these four major abiotic, remember, non-living factors. First, you've got temperature. It affects pretty much every chemical reaction in the body. Then there's water. That's life itself, right? Light, which is the ultimate power source for most ecosystems. And finally, soil, which provides the foundation and all the nutrients. Think of these as the fundamental, physical rules of the game of life.
And check this out. This graph is fantastic. It shows you exactly how those factors shape the entire planet. Just look. On the side, going up, you've got the average annual temperature. And across the bottom, the average annual precipitation, or rainfall. See how the different biomes fit into their own little boxes? Way down here, hot and dry, that's your desert. And way over here, hot and super wet, that's the tropical rainforest. This one image proves, without a doubt, that temperature and water are the two biggest drivers determining what can live where.
So let's dig into temperature a bit more. How do organisms actually respond to it? Well, they mostly fall into two big categories, and I guarantee you'll see these terms on your exam. First, you have euthermal organisms. These guys can handle a wide range of temperatures. Think of us mammals. A good way to remember it is uri sounds kind of like roomy or broad. The opposite is stenothermal. They're stuck in a narrow range of temperatures. Think steno for slender or narrow. A polar bear is a perfect example. It has to have the cold. And this single factor, their thermal tolerance, basically decides where on Earth they can live.
Now, this graph, this shows the two main strategies for dealing with all that. See the flat line? That's a regulator. They work hard to keep their internal environment constant no matter what's happening outside. But then look at the diagonal line. That's a conformer. Their insides just change along with the outside. Now here's the absolute key takeaway for NEET. Listen up. Being a regulator takes a ton of energy. It's super expensive. And that's exactly why over 99% of animals are conformers. It's just a much, much cheaper way to live energy-wise.
So let's just quickly recap. When things get tough in the environment, an organism has four main choices. 1. Regulate. 2. Conform. We just talked about those. What if they can't do either? Well, option 3 is to migrate. Just get out of there, like birds flying south. And the final option? Suspend. Basically, just shut down for a while. Think about a bear hibernating, or a snail going into aestivation during the summer heat, or even tiny zooplankton entering a pause state called diapause. Those are your 4 ways to survive the stress.
Okay, deep breath. We've been zoomed in on the individual. Now, let's pull back, zoom out. What happens when you get a whole bunch of those individuals together? We're climbing back up our hierarchy to the population level. And trust me, this is where things start to get really interesting and dynamic.
So, what exactly is a population? Let's be precise.
It's a group of individuals, all from the same species, living in the same area, who can share resources and, critically, who can interbreed. So think about all the tigers in a reserve, or all the bacteria in a petri dish. That's a population. And this is a big deal, because this is the level where natural selection actually works its magic to create evolution.
Here's something cool. A population has features that a single individual just can't have, right? An individual is born and dies, but a population, it has a birth rate and a death rate. An individual is either male or female. A population has a sex ratio. And a population has an age structure, something we can see with age pyramids. These are properties that only show up when you have a group.
And speaking of age, these pyramids are super important. You have to know how to read them. Basically, they show you the percentage of folks in the pre-reproductive, reproductive, and post-reproductive stages. Now, look at the one on the left, the expanding one. See how wide the base is? That means it's full of young individuals. That's a recipe for a future population explosion. A stable one is more like a column, and a declining one gets thinner at the bottom. The shape of the pyramid literally tells you the future of that population.
Okay, guys, pay close attention here. This comparison is easily one of the most important concepts in the entire chapter. On the left, you have that J-shaped curve. That's exponential growth. It's what happens when a population has unlimited food, unlimited space. It just skyrockets. But is that realistic? Of course not. In the real world, resources are limited, and that gives us the much more realistic S-shaped curve on the right. See how it grows fast at first, but then slows down and flattens out? That flat top is the carrying capacity, which we call K. It's the absolute maximum number of individuals the environment can support.
All right, we've done the individual. We've done the population. Time for the final piece of our ecological puzzle. What happens when you put different populations, we're talking different species now, all living together and interacting in the same place? That's when you get a community.
This table right here, this is your best friend for revision. Seriously, it summarizes every single type of interaction using a simple code. A plus sign means a species benefits, a minus sign means it's harmed, and a 0 means it's unaffected. So look, mutualism is plus plus, both win. Competition is minus minus, both lose. Predation and parasitism are plus minus, a classic win-lose scenario. You absolutely have to know this table inside and out.
So if competition is a lose-lose, how do species avoid constantly fighting? Well, they have a brilliant solution called resource partitioning, and this is the classic example. A scientist named MacArthur studied these 5 species of warblers living on the same tree and thought, how do they all survive? He realized they weren't really competing head-on. Instead, they just divided up the tree. Each species stuck to its own zone for feeding. It's like they agreed to disagree, creating their own little mini-niches so they could all coexist.
When you're prey, you have to get creative to survive, and prey species have evolved some absolutely incredible defenses. Take the monarch butterfly. It's super poisonous to predators like birds. But how did it get that way? Well, it's pretty clever. Back when it was a caterpillar, it munched on a poisonous weed and stored those toxins in its body. So this chemical defense makes it a truly awful snack. It's a perfect example of how prey adapt to avoid being eaten.
Okay, let's talk about a plus-plus, a win-win situation. That's mutualism. And the relationship between a fig tree and its special pollinator wasp is the textbook example. It's amazing. The wasp is the only thing that can pollinate the fig. But what's in it for the wasp? Well, the fig gives the wasp a safe place to lay its eggs, and then the larvae get to eat some of the developing seeds as food. They literally can't live without each other. It's a perfect partnership. All right, how about a +0 interaction? This is called commensalism. Think about an orchid growing on the branch of a mango tree. The orchid totally benefits, right? It gets support and it gets closer to the sunlight. But the mango tree? It couldn't care less. It's not helped, it's not harmed, it's completely unaffected. The orchid is just a freeloader, along for the ride. That's a super simple, clear example to lock in your memory.
So, to wrap this all up, I want to leave you with a really big question, something that connects everything we've talked about. We looked at J-shaped and S-shaped growth curves. The human population is now over 8 billion people. So, which curve do you think we're on? Are our resources unlimited, or are we approaching some kind of carrying capacity for planet Earth? And what does that even mean for our future? That's some serious food for thought. You guys did great today. Keep hammering these core concepts and you are going to be in fantastic shape for NEET.